The advice and opinions expressed by the host of Autism Live and her guests are meant solely as suggestion and should not be in any way construed as child-specific advice. The Center for Autism and Related Disorders advises working with a board-certified behavior analyst who has experience with autism before starting any intensive behavioral intervention. Any choices you make in determining your child's treatment are completely at your own discretion.
Good morning and welcome to this very special edition, live edition of Autism Live on World Autism Awareness Day. I am Shannon Penrod. Whew, I'm having some emotions about it all today. Lots of conversations already that I've had with people today, and I think that this day is super important for a lot of different reasons, but because it's a day in which we get to have conversations with people that often don't happen on other days. That's a little weird to me, but I'll take it, right? So we've got a big show planned for you here today. We are going to be live with you for the next hour. You know, this is the new format of Autism Live that we come to you Monday through Friday for 1 hour. Instead of those 2-hour jaunts on Wednesdays and Thursdays, we're coming to you more often, but in a shorter format, 1 hour. And today, it's a big day. We've got a lot of things that we're going to do. You know, on World Autism Awareness Day, I like to take a moment to recap why it's World Autism Awareness Day, what that is, what it means, what it doesn't mean, who is affiliated with that, and who isn't, because there's a lot of misconceptions about that, right? And then to read you some of the statements. We have several different organizations that have put out statements for the day. And then a little bit later on in the show, we're going to take the opportunity to go live to a place where we're going to talk to adults who are on the autism spectrum who are in the middle of a work day today. And those folks are part of Autism Works Now, which was co-founded by Joanne Laura and the fabulous Susan, I'm having a senior moment, Susan Osborne. I couldn't come up with your last name. There it is, Susan Osborne. So in any case, big show where we're hoping that a lot of live things go okay, because we're literally going out into the field to see glorious pies and to see some glorious people who are in different places on this beautiful spectrum working. Because part of what happens for me today is I love the conversations. Oh my gosh, I love the conversations. And there is always a point on this day where I'm able to have a conversation with somebody that wouldn't come up in other places, as I was saying. Already I've had like 4 of those conversations today. So it's one of those days, right? But at a certain point, I don't know about the rest of you, but the talk, you know, I get a little shaky. I'm like, we can talk about it all you want to, but there needs to be some action taken. Do you know what I'm saying? That I get just a little bit on the shaky side and I go, yeah, it's wonderful that you all have warm, fuzzy feelings, but let's stop having kids that have lunch by themselves in the lunchroom. Do you know what I mean? Let's stop acting like it's a spectrum where everybody's high functioning. Let's stop, I just put labels on things. Let's stop labeling people and start looking at people and stop looking at disability and look at this ability. Thank you, Howie Mandel. So anyway, you know, that's where I get a little bit like, ooh, let's take some action. So I'm glad to be here because this feels like a little bit taking action, although really it's a lot more talk. You know, one of those days. In any case, let's start by talking about how you can, you know, because you can write in too. Are you feeling a little footuts today? Is there something that's kicking your keister today? Or is there something you're celebrating today? Is there a milestone that you're celebrating? Are you celebrating the love that you feel for somebody who's on the spectrum? Are you celebrating the love you feel for yourself because you yourself are on the spectrum? We'd love to hear from you today. So Traven's going to show you some of the different ways that you can be in contact with us today, some of the different ways that you can have your voice heard today. One of the ways that you can contact is through our website. It looks brand new if you haven't been there, autism-live.com. When you go there, when we're live, it says live at the top with a red dot. Some servers, you have to click on that to get it to open. Others, it opens automatically. You will get a pop-up that says, do you want to subscribe, right? Because that's a necessary thing. When you fill that out, all you're subscribing to is to get our weekly newsletter that tells you who's going to be on the show. And occasionally there's a message, like if we get Dr. Temple Grandin to come on, it's usually last minute, and then we send out an alert to our list and say, hey. But if you're on that list, you know we're too busy to abuse it. Right? It is not our intention ever to abuse it, and we are way too busy to abuse it. So feel free to subscribe. That stops the pop-up from coming up. Otherwise, if you don't want to subscribe, which we understand, the pop-up will come up the first 7 seconds that you're on, and then you close it, and it should go away for the rest of the time that you're on this site. If it doesn't, let me know, because that's what it's meant to do. Pop up once in the beginning in the first 7 seconds and go away. Now, also at the bottom of that page, there's a little thing that says chat. When you click on that, it opens up a box. You can type whatever you want, hit enter, and it comes to me, and I'll check in on that in just a little while. But it is World Autism Awareness Day, and this is a day that people have a lot of different feelings about. I gotta say that in all the things that people have said, I like the most, ironically, what was said by the Office of Autism Research Coordination, which is part of the National Institute for Health. And their statement, short, sweet, to the point, and I like it, on today, April 2nd, OARC, which stands for Office of Autism Research Coordination, joins with governments and communities around the world to honor people on the autism spectrum, their families, caregivers, and others who dedicate their lives to serving people with disabilities. Well, you know, I love all of that. I would have tweaked the last word, I gotta say, but I love the fact that it says today is a day that we honor people who are on the autism spectrum, their families, their caregivers, and everyone who dedicates their life to serving, and I would have said to people with different abilities. That's all I would have changed on that, but I like that because so many people write in and say, yeah, Shannon, I'm not celebrating Autism Awareness Day because the fact that we have to still make people aware, no, I'm not celebrating that. And other people who are like, yeah, this holiday is not a holiday. This is a day where we're out making outreach to people who don't know about autism. And so a lot of people have a lot of different feelings, but I like that. Write and tell me if you like that as well. But let's talk a little bit about where World Autism Awareness Day comes from. There's a lot of people who think that this is an Autism Speaks event. No. And thank you, Traven, because this is our jargon of the day. What is World Autism Awareness Day? This, and go ahead, let's take a look at our actual definition here, Traven. It's formed by the United Nations, and it was formed on December 18th, 2007. So that's our actual definition. It is something that was a proclamation from the United Nations. Now, organizations picked it up and said, here's what we'd like to do. And Autism Speaks got very behind this and said, we love this. In fact, we want to do something extra. So they started Light It Up Blue. And that is an Autism Speaks event. I know that there are people who are not fans of Autism Speaks and not fan of the Light It Up Blue. I will tell you that when it was just World Autism Awareness Day and just the UN, I knew about it, but my friends and family did not know about it. Even if I told them, hey, today is World Autism Awareness Day, and they would go, hey, that's swell. But it didn't lead to a conversation. When Light It Up Blue started and people started to wear blue and light up their houses blue and light up their faces blue, conversations happened. And that is what I like about Light It Up Blue. I know some of you are not on the Autism Speaks bandwagon and you don't like the blue thing, and I honor your feelings about that. I just want you to know that for some of us, it has led to great, great conversations. When a couple of years ago, I always share the story, but it's one of many stories. We lit up our house blue, and people in our housing association reported us And so the Housing Association police gave us a ticket. We didn't know it, but because they sent it to our landlord and said, your people still have their Christmas lights on in April. But you know what happened? It led to this brilliant conversation that I got to say to my landlord, no, it's a thing. They can look it up online, and I'm sorry, and if I need to pay the ticket, I'll pay the ticket, but we're going to light it up blue in April. And she was like, I don't think so. I don't think you're paying the ticket. I don't think I'm paying the ticket. And she went back to the association people, who then had this conversation, and they were like, we didn't know. So it led to more discussions about autism. And in the course of that, somebody always asks a question like, so what are the symptoms of that? I've got a grandchild that I'm a little concerned about, right? For me, if I had to plug myself in and light myself up purple and green every single day to make sure that somebody feels free that they can ask that question, I would do it. I don't think it would lead to that conversation every day, but I would do it. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about 2019 World Autism Awareness Day observance. Okay, and I want to go back to a little bit of background and read this is directly from the UN site. And by the way, you can go on the the United Nations Facebook page today, and they're doing presentations all day long. A lot of our friends are speaking today at the United Nations, and we think that's super fun. So throughout its history, the United Nations family has celebrated diversity and promoted the rights and well-being of persons with disabilities, including learning differences and developmental disabilities. In 2008, the Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities entered into force, reaffirming the fundamental principle of universal human rights for all. Its purpose is to promote, protect, and ensure the full and equal enjoyment of all human rights and fundamental freedoms by all persons with disabilities, and to promote respect for their inherent dignity. Okay, we like that, right? It is a vital tool to foster an inclusive and caring society for all, and to ensure that all children and adults with autism can lead full and meaningful lives. The United Nations General Assembly unanimously declared that the 2nd of April as World Autism Awareness Day to highlight the need to help improve the quality of life of those with autism so they can lead full and meaningful lives as an integral part of society. And then it goes on to talk about autism and the rate of autism and the stigmatization and discrimination associated with neurological differences. So you can find all of that on the UN page. One of the things that the Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities has been trying to do is make sure, well, let's say this, every year the UN has a topic that they want to draw attention to. And last year it was the year of the woman. Women and children, I believe, but women in particular. And so they tried to highlight stories of individuals who are on the spectrum or women, because that's been traditionally a very underserved population, because let's face it, men on the spectrum outweigh women by 5 to 1. So it was time for that. But this year, the theme, are you ready? Assistive technologies, active participation. And I think that this is really interesting because when we're looking at what the UN does and how many countries are involved in the UN, and it's easy to say, well, it's just talk, but it trickles down. And when we say that something is important, and when countries who can afford it take action, it sets a bar for countries that don't have the money to and are still stigmatizing autism, so that things can begin to move in a direction. And I do think that access to technology is key, because so much of the help and support and resources, including this show, that are available to people on the autism spectrum, you have to have technology to be able to receive it. I know that here at the Center for Autism and Related Disorders, there's always discussions about who aren't we serving. And that there was a period of time in which, of course, CARD has therapy that they provide to people, and my family is the beneficiary of that kind of therapy, and there's nothing better. I mean, that is the gold standard for treatment, but it isn't available to everyone, not everywhere in the world, right? There aren't trained therapists available, and there isn't the funding for it yet, let's say yet. But CARD wanted to make sure that everybody had access to what CARD knew. And so Skills for Autism was started as a way of putting the curriculum in a way so that if you are in Pakistan and you cannot get a CARD therapist, you can have the curriculum that a CARD therapist would have to work with an individual. A vast curriculum, right? And an assessment tool to be able to see, maybe where's a good place to start with the lessons with this individual. And quickly they saw that, well, they're going to need training to be able to do that. So IBT was formed, the Institute for Behavioral Training, which provides an online tool. It's like being able to go to college for autism online. And you get to pick the courses that you want to take that are meaningful to you. And it's low cost, very effective. It was a way for a team of people wherever you are. I said Pakistan, but it could be wherever you are in the world. If you're putting together a team of people and you want to train them and you want to give them the curriculum, it's a lot of work, but wouldn't you like to have the tools and the keys to the whole thing? And so CARD worked very hard to make that possible. They recognize, though, that not everybody has a computer or an iPad or an internet connection. So CARD also put out a book. It's a big book, and so that could be given to people so that if they couldn't have access to the other things, they could have access to the book. And but that presumes that somebody can read. So, I know CARD is still looking at how can we get to those people that we can't get to otherwise. But I do think that making technology available to people is a direction that we've got to go in, right? When we talk about third world countries, when you don't have access to the internet, it is the equivalent, I think, of being in the 1950s and not having access to books, right? So that you couldn't, or access to a library where you couldn't go in and say, I'm interested in knowing more about this, how can I find out about it, right? So I do love the topic for the year. And this is what they have to say from the World Autism Awareness Day observance from the United Nations. This is directly from their website. Autism awareness has grown worldwide in recent years. For the United Nations, the rights of persons with disabilities, including persons with autism, as enshrined in the Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities, which is what it all comes from, are an integral part of its mandate. When world leaders adopted the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development in 2015, the international community reaffirmed its strong commitment to inclusive, accessible, and sustainable development and pledged that no one would be left behind. In this context, the participation of persons with autism as both agents and beneficiaries is essential for the realization of the Sustainable Development Goals. For many people on the autism spectrum, access to affordable assistive technologies is a prerequisite to being able to exercise their basic human rights and participate fully in the life of their communities and therefore contribute to the realization of the Sustainable Development Goals. Assistive technology can reduce or eliminate the barriers to their participation on an equal basis with others. Amen to that. The Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities acknowledges the instrumental role of assistive technologies in enabling persons with disabilities to exercise their rights and freedoms. It obliges states that are party to the convention to promote availability and use of such technologies at an affordable cost, to facilitate access to them and to undertake or promote research and development into new such technologies. While technologies are continuous, there are still major barriers to the use of assistive technologies, including high costs, lack of availability, lack of awareness of their potential, and a lack of training in their use. Available data indicates that in several developing countries, more than 50% of the persons with disabilities who need assistive devices are not able to receive them. In September of 2018, the UN Secretary General launched a new strategy on new technologies, which aims to define how the United Nations system will support the use of these technologies to accelerate the achievement of the 2030 Sustainable Development Agenda. The strategy is also intended to facilitate the alignment of these technologies with the values enshrined in the UN Charter Law, including the CRPD, which of course is the Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities, and other human rights conventions. These values include equality and equity, inclusion and transparency. Design and use of new technologies according to the strategy should be guided by a rights-based and ethical perspective. Okay, I'm not going to read you the rest of it, but it goes on to talk about leveling the playing field, creating technology in homes so that people can live without further assistance, education, employment, telemedicine, and the right to be heard. Oh my goodness, right? So having said all that, I want to read to you a couple of statements. And don't worry, we're going to get to some other goodies here. But okay, every year the Secretary General puts out a message for World Autism Awareness Day. So this is the Secretary General Antonio Guterres' message for today. On World Autism Awareness Day, we speak out against discrimination, celebrate the diversity of our global community, and strengthen our commitment to the full inclusion and participation of people with autism. That's pretty good. I'll take that, right? Supporting them to achieve their full potential is a vital part of our efforts to uphold the core promise of the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development, to leave no one behind. This year's observance underscores the importance of affordable assistive technologies to support people with autism to live independent lives and indeed to exercise their basic human rights. Around the world, there are still major barriers to accessing such technologies, including high costs, unavailability, and lack of awareness of their potential. Last year, I launched a strategy on new technologies to ensure that new and emerging technologies are aligned with the values enshrined in the UN Charter, the International Law and Human Rights Convention, including the Convention of the Rights of Persons with Disabilities. On World Autism Awareness Day, let us reaffirm our commitment to these values, which include equality, equity, inclusion, and to promoting the full participation of all people with autism by ensuring that they have the necessary tools to exercise their rights and fundamental freedoms. Again, that is the Secretary General message for 2019. That's Antonio Guterres for World Autism Awareness Day. Now, I want to talk, and then I have another proclamation to read to you. But I want to talk a little bit about our next slide, and go ahead and bring it up, Traven, because people don't, there are some people who are, this is a World Autism Awareness Day, but for, it's the next one. I guess it's the topic. I'll get to it in a second. Hang on, Traven. All discombobulated, but we are going to talk about the fact that for other people, it's not about awareness. So if you're somebody who's like, I'm not about awareness, I want you to hang on, right? Hang on. In fact, let's go ahead and go to the question of the day, because we always have a question for you. So the question is, how are you commemorating? What are you doing today? Because it's important what you're doing. So let's go on to our topic of the day, because some people are doing awareness, Some people are doing acceptance. Some people are doing action. And I have a new A word that people were talking about yesterday, admiration. So autism awareness, autism acceptance, autism action, and autism admiration. Which one are you doing today? Are you doing all four? Are you doing two of the four? It's okay. This is a spectrum. And there are people who are celebrating today. There are people who are celebrating today because they've met a milestone. There are people who are celebrating today because they love someone who's on the spectrum. There are people who are celebrating today because they have come to a certain amount of peace and their lives are working and not marked by the disability that sometimes can accompany an autism diagnosis. And I need for people to know that that is a possibility for some people. There are other people today who are in despair, and we cannot forget them. There are people who are in despair because their lives are not working, that the more difficult parts of autism and the more difficult parts of the disability that can accompany autism are creating havoc in their lives. That is very real. We're not ever trying to negate that. That is nothing to celebrate. We honor those people and the fight that they are in to be able to, it's like being in a swimming pool and not being able to find your footing, right? And the waves keep coming and you can't find your footing. And if that is you today, I just want to hug you. I want to tell you that part of this day is about making sure that you don't get left behind, that you and your loved ones don't get left behind, that we know more now than we used to know, and we know more about being able to help everyone on the spectrum. Does that mean that everybody ends up in the same place? No. But I don't want you to think that there's no more hope. For those of you who are living a life that is up, down, mercurial, that you don't know whether the person that you love on the autism spectrum, there are days when they're in a good mood and there are days when they're having meltdowns. I just want to let you know that we acknowledge that that is happening and that there is hope and that there is help. And I hope that it's coming to you soon. And I hope that when it gets there to you, that you won't look away, because it's going to feel bad that you couldn't have gotten it sooner. But there is hope and there is help. So whatever you're celebrating today, or whatever you're commemorating today, or whatever you're honoring today, we want to let you know that there is room for you in this community because it's a spectrum. Does that make sense? Now, having said all of that, we have another proclamation, and then we're going to take a break and go to the Autism Works Now folks. And this one is coming to us from the President of the United States, Donald J. Trump. And I think it's worthwhile to read because I think what it says is absolutely beautiful. There are things that I will talk about that I'm going to take issue with, but I want you to know that I would with any president. So let's say that's my disclaimer. So this is the proclamation on World Autism Awareness Day 2019. On World Autism Awareness Day, we honor the millions of Americans living with autism spectrum disorder who, in spite of the challenges they may face, continue to make extraordinary contributions to their families, their communities, our nation, and the world. We also express our sincere appreciation to the families, friends, medical professionals, and caregivers who help Americans with ASD pursue their American dream. Love this. Love it, right? As a nation, we must continue to support Americans with ASD. My administration has worked to fund cutting-edge research, optimize health systems, and enhance available resources and treatments that will benefit people with ASD. Okay, I'm going to take some exception to that. I cover autism in the news, and please, if someone can point to what he's referring to here, I will gladly take your direction. Okay, going on. Ongoing federal research efforts to understand the health and development of children with ASD have recently expanded to include adolescents and young adults, thereby advancing our knowledge of ASD beyond childhood. Additionally, our economic policies have created the lowest unemployment rate in the history of for Americans with disabilities, and recent federal investments in apprenticeship programs for individuals with ASD will help provide more pathways to stable employment. Ensuring the safety of all Americans with ASD is a priority of my administration. Last year, I was pleased to sign into law Kevin and Avante's Law, which expands the existing federal emergency alert program to include people with ASD and other cognitive disorders who may wander from safety. Mr. Schumer's bill. This legislation also authorizes funding for tracking technologies and specialized training for caregivers to help prevent and respond to instances of wandering. These investments will help put concerned families at ease, reduce the risks of tragedies, and improve the quality of life for individuals with ASD, their families, and caregivers. Today, we celebrate the tremendous accomplishments of Americans with ASD and reaffirm our commitment to work together to ensure that every member of our society is afforded equal opportunity to fund their full potential. Now, therefore, I, Donald J. Trump, President of the United States, by virtue and of the authority vested in me by the Constitution and the laws of the United States, do hereby proclaim April 2nd, 2019 as World Autism Awareness Day. No, that's the UN that does that. But okay, I call upon all Americans to learn more about the signs of autism, to improve their early diagnosis, understand the challenges faced by individuals with autism, and find ways to support those with autism and their families. Totally in agreement with you. In witness thereof, I have hereunto set my hand this first day of April in the year of our Lord 2019, and of the independence of the United States of America, the 243rd Donald J. Trump. And again, I am fair is fair, and if people can point to, because we have spent the last week, I'm sorry, dealing with all of the cuts that the administration, in the form of Betsy DeVos, want to do to cut all these programs and extra things that he's talking about that he has added. I have concerns. Just saying, that is my take on that, but I welcome, if you are somebody that can point to the things that he refers to, I will gladly cover them here on the show. I don't know how I could have missed them. In any case, we're going to take a short break, and then we are going to be back with the folks from Autism Works Now that are putting individuals to work today. Today, we're going to drop in on them as they're selling pies with Glorious Pies and talk to these young people and see what it's like to be at work on World Autism Awareness Day. Stick with us.
Hey, I'm Candace Cameron Bray.
Tom Bergeron.
You're watching Autism Live.
And you're watching Autism Live.
And you're watching Autism Live.
You're watching Autism Live.
Do you provide care services to someone with autism? Recently, more and more children are being diagnosed with the condition and getting the support they need as awareness grows. But what happens to these children as they grow up? It's estimated that over 500,000 youth with autism will turn 18 in the next decade, and they'll be faced with a very difficult reality. As children with autism grow up, their services start to disappear or become very difficult to access. Things like medical care, mental health counseling, vocational training, and more. All services that are still desperately needed. The loss of support that youth with autism face as they grow up is so severe that it's referred to in the autism community as falling off a cliff. Adults with autism need the same level of support they had as children to avoid falling off the services cliff. Introducing Skills Living, the web-based software designed specifically to help transitioning youth and adults with autism so they can avoid the cliff and instead fly to success. With Skills Living, help your learner with autism develop the skills they need in all the critical areas of adult life, including self-control, planning, and problem-solving, effective communication, performing life skill tasks for independent living, acquiring and maintaining employment or other meaningful activities, developing and maintaining social skills and relationships, accessing transportation and public services, and being safe. Skills Living includes a comprehensive assessment, a data collection mobile app, behavior intervention plan builder, and automatic progress reporting. It also provides a complete curriculum addressing 16 key areas, spanning the entire range of functioning adulthood. Skills Living is easy to use and can be implemented by schools, parents, and autism service providers. Call or click today for your free demo and see how Skills Living can help your learner with autism avoid the cliff and instead reach their fullest potential. Skills Living. Wish, learn, become.
Welcome back to World Autism Awareness Day on Autism Live. We are very excited. You see the logo there for Autism Works Now. This is co-founded by Joanne Laura and by Susan Osborne. They are out in the field today because it's a work day. And what a glorious thing that is. They are there with glorious pies. That's why it's so glorious. And they are setting up because they are going to be selling pies. They might already be selling pies. So I don't know who we actually have on the Skype right now. I don't know whether it's Joanne or James, but can you guys hear me? And this is what happens when you go live. Hello, have we got their picture, Traven? There's Joanne. Hello, and okay, it's not the best connection in the world, but there's the Glorious Pies truck in the background. And that truck, the design that was done on that truck was done by artists from Exceptional Minds. So there's James, one of the Autism Works Now candidates, and we just saw Joanne a second ago. Can one of you tell us where you are today?
We are at the, what is it? Give me a moment.
Yes, I beg your pardon. Sorry about that, guys.
Right.
That's what happens when we're live. Hi, Joanne.
Okay.
We are at
Fox Plaza, and we're just getting ready to pull up and take our little place over here where we're going to sell our pies and our coffee.
So you guys are still in setup mode.
That are Autism Works Now.
You guys are still in setup mode. Yes. Why don't we give you guys a couple of minutes? Why don't you guys go ahead and set up and get your stuff going? And then as soon as you're set up, why don't you give us a call back?
Okay.
all right.
How's that work? Because we don't want to take away from your work. So go ahead and take a few minutes and give us.
You don't need that bag.
Okay. So Traven, thank you. We'll talk to you guys in a few minutes because they're like in the thick of it getting set up. Okay. Beg your pardon there on some language. But you know, keeping it real, right? When you're at work, and there's things to be set up and it all gets a little hectic, right? But I think it's important that, you know, on Autism Live, we're not ever trying to candy coat anything. And it's not the easiest thing in the world to go to a location and set up and sell pies, but that's what these individuals do on a regular basis. This is part of the workday. What I love about this is when Autism Works Now started, their initiative was that they were going to get individuals on the spectrum job ready. And that meant getting them a resume, teaching them how to interview, giving them practice interviewing, because we know that the more you practice at something, the more likelihood that you're going to make progress and get better at it, right? So there's a whole curriculum around Autism Works Now. In fact, there's a book that Joanne Laura and Susan Osborne have put out that it's teaching pre-employment skills to, I think it says ages 13 to 17-year-olds on the autism spectrum. But really, it is for anybody, pre-employment skills. And it gives you all of the different forms that you need to be able to teach these skills. There's worksheets, there's things that to be filled out that help lessons that you can practice and do. And this is what Autism Works Now did. They would go on field trips, they would go to real places like Fox Plaza, and there would be executives there that would meet them and interview them and give them feedback. And have them ready to potentially be hired as interns. And there were some interns that were hired from Autism Works Now, but what they saw quickly is that there's a whole component that is hard to overcome. And that is some of the reservations that people who are employers have, but also very easily those employers could be taught on strategies to be able to help the people who are on the spectrum get over little humps as they begin a job. But you know, who had the time for that? Employers were like, "What? I got to do something extra besides hiring them." So Joanne and Susan said, "Well, you know, if you can't teach it one way, teach it another way, right?" So instead, they started Glorious Pies as a way to then take what they were learning in the classroom, put it in motion with an actual business. So some individuals get hired in Autism Works Now out to other companies, and that's wonderful and glorious. And that is, in fact, the goal for everybody, right? But some people need a practice training ground to get over the hiccups, right? And those folks go into the Glorious Pies employment area. They are actual employees. They get paid an actual wage. It's none of this workshop, you know, we're paying them $3 an hour sweatshop kind of a thing. No, they get paid an actual wage and they do the job. So Glorious Pies, right now they have the truck and they go places and they make coffee. And they actually make the coffee there. And I've watched these young adults, they all have their little jobs that they like to do. They've learned how to take the credit card information. They've learned, you know, how to box things up, how to prepare things for, you know, take special orders, talk about dietary restrictions, all of those different things, answer questions, right? Restock. And deal with customer service issues. So it's a really wonderful thing, and we see that those individuals then are more job ready to go to the next job. Does it solve everything that they would ever need to learn on the job? Well, no. Nor would it for anyone, right? Whenever we start a new job, you and I, we still have hiccups that we have to figure out. Yesterday, we had a new person start, and it's a person in a very high-ranking job, and I was leaving at the same time, and I said, "Hey, do you want some help figuring out the parking lot? Because all of us have gotten lost at least once in the parking lot here at the Warner Center. It's just a thing. The parking lot is like an Escher painting." And I was thrilled to be able to show this to this person because we're all human beings, whether you are on the spectrum or not on the spectrum, we could all use a little bit of help in the new job getting over those hiccups, right? But what Autism Works Now does is get those individuals more ready to be able to handle those hiccups and know what to do and know that they can survive it because they've already done one job. Make sense? It's a wonderful thing. If you want to find out more about Autism Works Now, you can visit their website or which is autismworksnow.org, or you can go to their Facebook page, Autism Works Now. We're going to take a break and then we're going to come back and hopefully we're going to get more of an opportunity to talk to those folks on location, Autism Works Now. Although doing the job is more important than talking to us. So let's see if that works out. Stick with us. We're going to be back after these messages.
Potty training is different for every child. A child could come in with absolutely, no control over their bladder, and as long as that's not a medical issue, then we can certainly approach it behaviorally and give them the tools they need to be successful, just like any other skill that we would teach.
Well, we think he's learning to pee on the potty. No big successes yet, and lots of accidents. Here is the laundry from today.
For some of our kids takes, just a couple days, and then for other kids it can take months and months and months, and then when you're looking at complete independence, it can take years.
Hey, you have to go pee-pee?
There's a lot of different ways to tell if a child is ready. We look for a couple different things. Probably the most important is parents saying, "I need this to happen, I'm ready." Second is, a child showing interest in the bathroom, and some of it is simply age. It's time to go ahead and work on this.
What are you doing? Pooping. You're pooping?
You first start with teaching the child what they need to do on the toilet. The basic thing we want is for them to drink as much liquid as possible. It's inevitable that if you drink a bunch of liquid, you're gonna pee.
Help. No, I can't help you pee. Help. I can hold your hand, but I can't help you pee.
Ultimately, what we want is that, the child, as soon as they're put on the toilet, they urinate. So that's step one. Step 2 is usually working through the amount of time that they're off of the toilet and making sure that they're not having accidents during the time that they're off. So this is kind of the bladder control stage of things.
So the purpose of the potty log is just to see how long it takes them as soon as they sit on the potty for them to actually urinate, and the amount of time that he's able to hold his urine. And with the log, we're able to visually see how long it takes them each time and if they have accidents or not. He's on a half-hour potty schedule, so if he doesn't go when we take him, then we have to take him in 10 more minutes. So every 10-minute intervals until he does go, and then we reset the clock, and it's 30 minutes again.
Okay, buddy. Okay, last chance to go pee-pees. Do we reset it for 10?
Oh, what does that mean? What does that mean, Jack? It's potty time. We can come play after. Hurry.
What we hope happens in this time is that the kids will learn how to initiate going to the bathroom on their own. This is oftentimes the hardest part of potty training, is because they get so used to somebody telling them when they need to go that they're not really recognizing the signs just in their own body of when they need to go.
Uh-oh, he wet himself.
Uh-oh. Big wet?
Was it a lot? We can reset to half an hour now.
The biggest thing for parents is not to give up. The other big tip, and I think pitfall that a lot of parents fall into, is putting their children back into pull-ups or diapers, especially if they're starting to have accidents. And this is probably the worst thing that you can do. They need to recognize that feeling of fullness in their bladder and take themselves to the bathroom, or tell an adult that they need to go to the bathroom.
What do you have to do? You have to put your pee-pee in the potty. Okay, give it a shot. See if you can put it in there. There you go. There you go. You're doing it. Yay, Jack. Big push for your pee-pee.
Big pee-pee.
Yay! Woo! Yay! Good job. What a big boy. High five. High five. High five. High five. High five. High five. High five.
Welcome back. One of the other things I love about World Autism Awareness Day is that more and more organizations and media outlets are recognizing it, and they are on the hunt for stories and things that they want to cover. So this morning, goodhousekeeping.com put out an article, 10 things parents of kids with autism spectrum disorder wish you knew. What a great thing. And their subtitle is No Two Kids with ASD Are Alike. And this is by Marissa Lascala. And it quotes several people, including Christina Adams, one of our regulars here on the show. So in any case, they give a little discussion about autism at the beginning of it. I want you to check it out, and talk about early intervention and the prevalence being 1 in 59. And yet that it's 7% higher, it says here, yet the reported prevalence among white children is 7% higher than African American children and 22% higher than Hispanic children, pointing to potential missed or delayed diagnosis in those groups. Thank you. Thank you, Good Housekeeping, for noting that, because a lot of people leave that little fact out. So what are the 10 tips here? And I'm only going to have time to go through a few of them because we're getting ready to go back to Autism Works Now. But so number 1, it's harmful to make assumptions from the outside. Parents of kids with ASD, especially ones who are high functioning, are often frustrated by comments from people who say their kids don't look the part. I love Misty D said, I hate the phrase, he doesn't look like there's anything wrong with him. Oh, Misty, don't we all? Yes, my son looks normal on the outside, but his brain doesn't process things like everyone else. And other people go on to talk about how it really bugs them when people make assumptions. And remember, we should always assume intelligence, right? Let's spread that notice. Number 2, there might be a lot more going on than you might not notice at first. That people on the spectrum, it's that old saying about just because I can't speak doesn't mean I don't have anything to say. Yeah. And people assume, you know, we all have expressive and verbal language, and they are in different places. So people assume that because I am so expressively verbal that I can hear really well, and I can't, right? And that can be backwards and the other way with individuals who are on the autism spectrum. We should never assume. No two people with ASD are exactly alike, and one person with ASD isn't the same all the time either. Love that little tip. I love this one because this is the one that has the quote from Christina Adam. A little support can go a long way. And Christina says, the number one thing I want people to know about autism is this. You must accept your child's autism while you give him or her the most help you can. It's very hard for people to hold those two things that sound contradictory in their mind, but this is the best way I've found to approach autism parenting. Autism, mild or more severe, means they'll face difficulty in many ways, yet they are real, full human beings with strengths and love inside them. Since autism comes in several subtypes, connect with parents whose kids are like yours. Find out what doctors, foods, and therapies they use and carefully try new things step by step. They can and do get better with the right help and will surprise you beyond your wildest dreams. Thank you, Christina Adams. That's why we love her so much. Other tips that they give, and yet some understanding and accommodations can go even further. The importance of the fact that it means more than just being accepting. It means being a friend, being somebody who helps. Being adaptable yourself. Sometimes we are so rigid and we're like, well, it needs to be this way because you need to make eye contact, or if you don't, it means you don't care. Except it doesn't. And we can be flexible too. Okay, those are just some of the tips. Make sure that you check out this article on goodhousekeeping.com. I think we're getting ready to go back to our Autism Works Now, folks. So we're going to take a short break and then hopefully be back with them to close out this very special show. Stick with us.
Hi, Lisa Ackerman back with Talk of Facts. Questions, real life questions and answers for the autism journey. Oh, are you ready for this one? Talk to me about puberty. So what I would recommend is first and foremost is the kids that have done the therapeutics, the medical, and the dietary allergen removal interventions tend to have an easier time at puberty. Seizures are really common for children on the spectrum, more than neurotypical populations, and they're especially most common right at or about puberty time. So it's extremely important, even if you have a 10-year-old, that you've already done an EEG, that you consider before they go through puberty to get a second EEG done. Just because you have one clean EEG with no abnormal brain activity or seizure activity, you need to do another one prior to puberty. That's one of the most common calls we get with teens on the spectrum, is they are often experiencing a seizure for what their family thinks is the first time. And the third thing is you're gonna have a teenager, so you're really gonna have to kick it up a notch on those life skills, social skills, and getting your kid ready to be that teenager they need to be. So if you're doing that baby thing, and I know you are, where you're maybe making their lunches or helping them with laundry, we need to start bouncing some chores over to those kids. And we also need to increase social environments where they can be successful. So think about it. We've got 3 really important things that we need to look at. Puberty is a very serious issue, and we take it very seriously. So make sure you have all of your therapeutics, medical, and dietary interventions in place. Consider to do another 24-hour EEG with your physician prior to puberty. And the third most important thing, get ready to raise the bar. Your job is to really get them ready for life. And I know you can do it.
Welcome back to this very special edition of Autism Live. There's Joanne Laura. You look beautiful, love. Just back from Paris. We can see you now, and there's your beautiful, gorgeous truck, and behind you there. And so, Joanne, and look at the crew you got with you. Introduce everybody for us, Joanne.
What did she say?
Introduce us to everybody.
Okay, good. First, we want to say, everyone, World Awareness Autism Day is today, and we're here with Glorious Pies and the employees, and we're working at Fox Plaza here in Los Angeles. And here's Susan Osborne. She's the director of Autism Works Now. Hello.
Hi,
Good to see you,
Susan.
Shannon.
It's great to see you.
And Zach.
Good to see you, to Shannon.
Hello, Zach. You look great with your shades.
Shannon.
That's right, I am your friend. Absolutely. Who else we got there?
Yeah, Katarina, go ahead, introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm the new employee of Glorious Pies.
Wonderful. Congratulations.
Thank you.
And this is Noah Paskowitz, and he's my assistant, actually.
There you go. Hi, Noah. We haven't met
Shannon.
yet, but nice to meet you on live. So where are you? Can we see your table? Where are you guys set up yet to work?
No, we're not set up yet until 11. So sorry, Shannon.
No. That's your schedule.
Around the car.
But you guys are at work. Yeah, let's take a look at the truck because we were mentioning that's designed by the folks over at Exceptional Minds. So
Exceptional Minds.
There's their logo. We love them too. And if you see this truck parked someplace, then you know there's folks at work. Can we see a pie? Is there even one pie we can see? Because they are glorious.
Sure. Follow me.
They're fabulous pies. And what a great opportunity to help keep people employed.
These are all creme brulees.
Ooh, yeah. That's going to be good. Can't wait for the folks to come out. And oh, do you see that, you guys? And you get your little spoon with you and everything. That's fabulous. Wonderful, wonderful. So I want to talk to one of your candidates there, Joanne.
Okay.
So you decide who we're going to talk to. I want to know how they like working for Glorious Pies.
All right, Katarina.
Well, I enjoy it. I like being in customer service. I like talking to people what they like to purchase from our program. It's fun.
Wonderful.
I like being around people.
Well, and it's great to have a job, right? That's something that you say all the time, Joanne, that, having a job is important. Zach, I want to know how Zach likes working on World Autism Awareness Day. Zach, you like working today?
Yeah.
It's because you'd rather work, right? Right.
James.
I'm loving those shades. Hey, James, talk to us a little bit about, you've been with Autism Works Now for a while. What do you like doing at Glorious Pies?
Learning, actually. I like seeing how things work and getting people together.
That's how you get Glorious
Well, that's
Pies.
a great thing. That's a great thing.
Yeah.
So how long, so for people who are at Fox Plaza today, how long are you guys going to be there selling pies?
11 to 2.
11 to 2.
Okay. And you guys have coffee there as well, and usually you sell water too, right?
Coffee? Yeah.
Coffee and water, yeah.
Okay.
Typically, we sell it for what?
$8 or 10 with the coffee and the water.
Yeah.
Very cool. So James, I imagine you've tried the pies. What's your favorite dessert that Glorious Pies sells?
Typically, I like going for the creme brulees, actually.
Okay. What about Zach? Which one's Zach's favorite? Which one of those pies do you like, Zach?
The fruit tart.
The tart, okay.
Fruit tart.
The fruit tart, wonderful. And for the lovely young woman who I have not met yet, what is her name again, Joanne?
Katarina.
Katarina, what's your favorite dessert at Glorious Pies? Have you had any of them yet?
Oh, there are so many, but I really enjoy the creme brulees. They're very creamy. I like that creamy texture from the heavy cream and mascarpone in there. It's really good.
Ooh, that's selling those ingredients, Katarina. That's great. Noah, have you tried the pies yet?
I have. My favorite is the chocolate cake. That one I like.
There's chocolate cake now. You guys have branched out. What about Susan? What's Susan's favorite dessert?
I have to have a tough choice between the creme brulee and the fruit tart.
All right.
But I haven't tried the chocolate cake yet, so I'm really interested to see how that tastes. I'm sure it's delicious.
Well, we've heard from Noah that it's good. So buzz on the street is that it's really good. And Joanne, what's your favorite dessert? Look at that Fox Plaza. It's gorgeous. That's a beautiful, beautiful building in sunny California. Love it. Joanne, what's your favorite dessert so far?
I love the creme brulee, actually.
Okay. So we're almost out of time, and I know you guys have a lot to set up because you want to get ready. Oh, look, there's other food trucks there too. So it's going to be a big day, you guys working. What a wonderful way to commemorate World Autism Awareness Day. We are impressed by all of you. You are the face of the future. So
thank you, Shannon, for having us and showing that work possibilities are a reality. These guys all get a paycheck, and they're all happy to be working. So more of that, please.
Yes, amen to that, sister. Amen to that. All right, you guys have a great day. We sure appreciate you being with us. I know it's hectic there right now. Enjoy.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye, everybody. Bye-bye.
So there we are, folks. That's World Autism Awareness Day at Autism Live in our new format. We're back tomorrow. Tomorrow is a very special day in a lot of different ways. It's actually Dr. Doreen Granpichet's birthday, but we don't have her, which is a total bummer. But, you know, it's her birthday. But she's actually working, and she's just not going to be where she can talk with us. But please feel free to send in your birthday wishes to Dr. Granpichet. I will make sure that they are shared with her. We are going to be here tomorrow with a very special show. It's our best of Dr. Temple Grandin, and you're going to see some things that you have not seen before on the show. So you're definitely going to want to tune in for that. The best of Dr. Temple Grandin. Then on Thursday, we are going to be live in the studio with Anita Lesko. Oh my gosh, I just adore the ground that she walks on. You want to talk about somebody in the autism community who is about jobs, because Anita Lesko has been working as an anesthetist nurse for, I think, 2 decades. So we're going to be thrilled to have Anita talking about her new book on Thursday. And then on Friday, you're going to see Let's Talk Autism with Shannon and Nancy, and we're going to be talking with some folks about getting your genetic testing to see why that would be really cool and how that can help you. So that and more all coming up this week. We'll see you tomorrow. Until then, give your kiddos a hug from me and one for you too. Bye-bye for now.